So as I was saying, you are looking for win-win outcome in every transaction you're doing, in everything that you are working around. The other thing that also comes into play is the issue of integrity. Integrity is very critical to everything that we do as believers, not only in the marketplace, but in all of our lives. When we talk about integrity, we are talking about the fact that you make your word your bond. When you make a promise, when you make a commitment to do something, are you able to deliver on that commitment? Integrity is such a huge word, covering very many different aspects. The book of Proverbs is very clear when it comes to matters integrity. It says that God values just weights and measures. So there are some people who are in businesses where they need to give people things in particular quantities. And one of the things that happens is that out there in the world, people play funny games. There's a lot of monkey business when it comes to weights and measures. So you buy a kilogram of sugar, which is not really a kilogram, because somebody has doctored the way that it's been packaged in such a way that when you place the weight there, it looks like it's a kg, but in reality, it isn't. Now, people who are doing business from a kingdom perspective cannot afford to do that. People who are doing business from a kingdom perspective will not promise one thing and deliver something else that is completely different or completely far removed from that which is the expectation of the client. The other thing that also comes up is excellence. Excellence. When you're doing business from a kingdom perspective, there is the aspect of excellence to think about. Why? Because for you, business is not just an exchange of a transaction where you're exchanging value for value. There is something much deeper that you're representing. Business is a mission actually for you. When you're doing business God's way, business is a mission for you. And you look at yourself as someone who is representing the kingdom of God. You're looking at yourselves as somebody who's representing God, so to speak. So, and one of the things that we know about God is that he's a God of excellence. He gives the best of himself. When he thought about who to give to save the world, he gave his only begotten son. Whatever God does, he gives the best that is possible. And therefore, when we are doing business and we are doing it as a mission and in a bid to represent God in the way that we are doing our things, then one of the things that happens or that comes automatically is for us to be able to apply excellence. Excellence means you're putting your best foot forward. It means you're not slacking on any of the things that you know you need to take care of. It means you are not leaving things to chance. You are working to ensure that you are delivering on what is expected of you and actually going beyond the expectations of the people. So when you're doing business from a kingdom perspective, excellence will strongly be by your side because you are looking to do that which will reflect well on the God whom you serve. The other thing also that comes up is the aspect of value for money. Value for money. That comes out very strongly because, again, whereas in the world, people are looking to make as much as possible by doing as little as possible. For you and for me who are looking to do business from a kingdom perspective, we want to give people value for their money. You don't want to rip people off. You don't want to give people substandard service and substandard goods. For example, yet charge them a premium rate. So you will want to match the value for which people have paid you at every turn. It is not a normal way of doing things. In the world, people are looking at shortcuts, people are looking at making a quick buck, and therefore they will do anything. They will cut all the corners necessary in order to make as much as possible from as little effort or as little input as they can. But for you, for me, for anyone who is looking to deliver on the promise of the kingdom, then what happens is that you will go the distance that is required, you will put in the work that is needed, and give people something that is worth what they have paid for, whatever it is you're selling or whatever it is you're transacting on. So those are a few of the values which I feel are critical when somebody is thinking about doing business God's way. The other thing also that happens when we are talking about doing business God's way comes up in as far as where do you find your strength and your inspiration, your guidance and your direction from, even as a business person. So I talk about something called applying kingdom resources. When you're doing God's business God's way, one of the other things you'll want to do is you'll want to make use of the resources available for you as an individual. In the book of 1 Corinthians 2:16 going downwards, the Bible talks about us having the mind of Christ, which for me is a huge resource that whatever it is you're doing, imagine if you're able to tap into the intelligence of Christ. Imagine if you're able to tap into the wisdom of Christ. So when you're conducting your business and you get to a point where you don't know which way to go, one of the resources you can use, which you can access, is actually the mind of Christ. So you are not only you're not only relying on what you learned in school, because maybe you went to school and studied business management, business administration, which is all good and it is needed. But now get to think of it this way, that as a believer, you have access to another degree of knowledge that is not available to that person who has no regard for God. There's wisdom that you can tap into. There is understanding that you can tap into that is not available for other people. So we must lead and work on our businesses from a place of prayer. For us, the mind of, we're able to tap and access the mind of Christ through the privilege of prayer and through studying his word and meditating on it. That when, you know, the question then becomes, where do you turn to in those moments when you're not sure which way to go about a decision you need to make for your business or for your life in general, for that matter? As a believer and as somebody who is seeking to do business God's way, that is the point at which you turn on that privilege of prayer. That is the point at which you seek divine wisdom. That is the point at which you get to connect to God and find direction for that which you need to do. If there are people who are supposed to be innovative and inventive, it is believers. If there are entrepreneurs and business people who are supposed to be bringing new solutions to the way that things are done, it is believers. Why? Because, like I'm saying, we have access to another level of wisdom. We have access to another degree of understanding that the people in the world cannot attain, because for them they depend on that wisdom which has already been revealed, that wisdom which is already in the books and with people. But for us, we have the unique privilege of being able to consult heaven. You know, when you want to make a decision, the level of your consultant or consultants is very critical. The more knowledgeable your consultant, the better the advice they are going to be able to give you. Now, I want you to look at God as that person that you can consult. I want you to look at God as that person that you can tap into his wisdom. And when you understand that, you get to realize that we are not supposed to be getting stuck with the things that other people get stuck with. Reason being, in those moments when we are stuck, when we don't know what to do, we actually have an opportunity to consult the mind of Christ. We have an opportunity to consult divine wisdom. The Bible says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask from God, who gives to all liberally. You know, God is not short of wisdom. God is not short of a way out of whatever situation you find yourself in as a business person, because he knows the beginning from the end. He knows how it's all going to play out. So if we can learn to tap into kingdom resources in the way that we are doing our business, then it is possible for us to excel. What you'll realize about a lot of the inventors and innovators of past ages is that many of them grew up in church. Many of them were believers, so to speak. The likes of Isaac Newton, the likes of even Galileo, and very many other people. You get to realize that these are people who had a foundation in church. They had a foundation in God. So there's no there's no battle or conflict really between science, innovation, technology, and God. It is actually God who's able to help us tap into levels of innovation that we are not able to get to on our own. So one of the best things that you can do for yourself, whether you are thinking of going into business or you are already into business and you're asking yourself, what is the best way forward? One of the best things that you can do is to learn to tap into the mind of Christ, to learn to ask for divine wisdom and guidance, because you will be capable of receiving insights which are not available to the average person out there. You see, it is said that even those who we consider geniuses out there, the truth of the matter is that they are using a very limited amount of the capacity of their brains. So what that tells you is that imagine what would happen if God redeemed a larger capacity of your brain, so such that you're able to think, you're able to make full use of that which your brain is capable of coming up with. There is no limit to how much innovation you can bring on board for the benefit of the people. Here is another thing that we also need to consider when we are thinking about doing business God's way. This is the truth. Every industry has their way of doing things. Every industry has what you would call their status quo. Every industry has certain expectations and certain things that they have accepted, certain principles that they have embraced, and they have decided that this is the way we are going to operate. I personally studied hotel and hospitality management in college. And one of the things that I came to note about the hotel industry, especially the people who work in the kitchen, is that there's a lot of vulgarity that is the norm for them. You enter into any kitchen in the hotel industry and you listen to the language there, and you realize that it's actually the same across the board. whether you're at Hilton or you're at Safari Park or you're at Kempinski, wherever it is, enter into the kitchen and you realize that vulgarity is normal. It is commonplace. Now, that is an example in my industry. Every industry has certain norms. Now, it was possible for me to go in and fit in and speak the same things that they speak and act the same way that they act and be vulgar and careless with my words, just like them. But during the time when I worked in the hotel industry, both during attachments and even after finishing college and all that, one of the things that I can tell you with certainty is that I never allowed myself to get sucked into that kind of thing. Why? Because I know that I am a kingdom person. So if I go in there and I do things the way that they are doing them, how then does the light of Christ shine in that particular kind of darkness? So what I'm saying is, your industry, there are certain things which are not right, and everyone knows they are not right, but they have been normalized. They have become the norm. They have become the modus operandi. They have become the accepted way of life. Now, when you want to do business God's way, one of the things that you're called upon to do is to challenge that status quo. You have to challenge those people by being and doing differently, choosing to be different, choosing to stand out, choosing to go against the norm, choosing to act contrary to the common expectation. I love we've seen a lot of disruption in many industries over the past few years. In Kenya, one huge story of disruption happened actually in the banking industry with the likes of Equity Bank. Equity Bank came onto the scene and a lot had to change across the board. Banks which could not look at the common man all of a sudden realized that unless we find a way of incorporating the common man in the things that we are doing, we are going to lose out. That's a very good example of somebody who entered into an industry and they shook and changed the status quo. As a business person and as a kingdom business person, ask yourself, in my industry, what are these things that people have come to consider normal, commonplace, everyday, acceptable, which in essence are not right, which in essence are not serving and helping people, so to speak. What are these things? Because when you get to understand these things, you will take action and you will begin to act differently with regard to how you're doing things as an individual or as a business, an organization within your particular industry. So it's about challenging the status quo in as far as morals are concerned, challenging the status quo in as far as operations are concerned, challenging the status quo in as far as the technicalities of your industry are actually concerned. The other thing also that comes up as I almost come to a close is every industry has its standards and its ethics. For example, in the medical profession, we talk about the Hippocratic Oath, where there is that huge emphasis on the value for human life. So you don't fail to treat somebody because they have not paid the consultation fee. You take care of matters. That is the expectation. You take care of things and think about the economics later. That's just one example. Now, every industry has ethics, every industry has standards, every industry has expectations which have been set by people who have worked in the industry over the years. Now, it would hurt, and it would be a problem if it is found that you now here. I'm not talking about the things which are negative and unhelpful. I'm talking about things which are critical and key for the functioning of people and businesses in a particular industry. It would be unfortunate if you, as a believer, are found among those who are flouting those ethical standards. You are found among those who are going against them. You are found among those who are breaking them and being a nuisance and being a problem. As a believer, as a business person who wants to do business God's way, you will have regard for the ethical standards, the ethical expectations of your industry, the things which you are looked up to do and to uphold, simply because you are operating in that particular industry. Then you have to look at your business as a mission. Once again, I repeat, you have to look at your business as a mission to serve humanity. So I say that your business needs to be like a portal to heaven for the people who come into contact with you. That when people come into contact with you and your business, when people come into contact with you and your products, can they leave the place feeling like they have had an encounter with God? Can they leave the place feeling that they have been handled by somebody who knows God and who honors God in everything that they are doing? So your business needs to be that place where people can plug into God even as they go about their day-to-day activity. How you implement that is different across the board. We can't really talk about that here in detail, but I know you get the drift, and if there are any questions, definitely we are almost going into a time where I'll open it up for us to discuss. So then the other thing also that comes up is, as a kingdom business person, you must be one who has embraced your industry's best practices. What are the best practices in your industry? You should not be one who is lagging behind in terms of doing what you need and ought to do. You must be up there when people are doing the very best things, when people are applying the very latest skills. You also need to be there. So you cannot afford to slack and be left behind and only play catch up time after time. You must purpose to be among the people who are carrying out industry best practices. But there's something actually better than best practices. There's something we call only practices. Only practices come up when somebody has actually gone beyond best practices, and they have now become a pace setter. They have become now the person who everyone else looks up to. You can actually grow in the way that you're doing your business in such a way that other people who are in businesses similar to you come to benchmark from you on how best to do this business. As a believer, that must be your target, and that must be your aim. That must be the thing that you choose to work towards, because it is a way in which you and I get to glorify God. Finally, a good person who is seeking to do business God's way will also seek to mentor others. You will seek to be a good mentor to other people who are in the same business. Why? Because for you, you have moved on from a world and a life of competition to a world and a life of collaboration. You know, in the world, people are competing to outdo each other. People are competing to come out on top. I'm not necessarily against healthy competition, but at the same time, my thinking and my understanding is that collaboration is better, and it leads everyone to a place where they are winning and finding meaning and doing better for themselves, rather than when we are in competition. Now, when you are thinking competitively, you don't want to mentor others who are on the same path as you, because at the end of the day, you're saying they will come and override me. They will come and do much better than me, and then I'll be the one who's left behind. But when you understand that we are here for each other, when you understand that we are building something for the benefit of humanity at the end of the day, and not just looking at profit and our own survival, then mentorship will come naturally to you. I will finish with a story of a particular farmer who he said, you know, every year he would win competitions for the best produce. I think it was corn in the US, and you know, they went to interview him, and they were asking him, how come you are always doing very well every year? And you know, he tells them, I'm just paraphrasing, this is not the way the story is done exactly, but he tells them, you know, when my neighbors come to me seeking seed, I give them the very best seed, the kind of seed, the same kind of seed that I plant. So they were they ask him, don't you care that if you do that, they are going to get produce that is far much better than yours, and they are going to outdo you or outshine you? So the guy is like, you know, at the end of the day, my maize or my corn is not pollinated by my own by the stocks in my own farm. I depend on, because when the wind blows and it is blowing the pollen, it is the pollen from my neighbors lands that ends up on my own land. So if I give them poor quality, what it means is that my own corn will be pollinated by poor quality pollen, and what that will do is that it will mean the quality of my produce goes down. So the moral of the story is that by building other people up, you actually end up building yourself. By looking at other people as collaborators rather than competitors, you end up doing better for yourself. So kingdom business and doing business God's way requires that you build others, because in building them, consequentially and inadvertently, you are also building yourself. I would like to bring my presentation to a close at that point. And before I maybe open up, I promised that there's something I was going to share or talk about in today's session. And I think this is the right time for me to mention it before I open this up to any further discussion. So starting this month of November, every third Wednesday of the month, I am going to be doing, I'm starting what is called a Kingdom Business Fellowship. I'm starting a Kingdom Business Fellowship. This is a place where we are going to be meeting people who are doing business and they want to learn how that business can become a mission. They want to learn how they can use their business as a way and a means of serving God, even as they serve humanity. And this is going to be happening at my church. We meet at Hotel Green Court, Nairobi City Center, 5th floor. So I'm going to be doing that every third Wednesday of the month. So our first meeting is actually going to be that other week, not this Wednesday, that other Wednesday, the Wednesday that comes after this one. We are going to be doing our inaugural meeting. And if you are in Nairobi, I want to take an opportunity to invite you and to also ask you to help me spread the word, because this we are going to do, and it's going to be a forum that will equip people. It's going to be a forum where people can network. It's going to be a forum where people can collaborate. It's going to be a forum where people will learn a lot about how to do business in a manner that glorifies God, and in a manner that serves humanity and brings about untold benefit to everyone that is involved. So you heard it here first. Definitely, we are going to make a little more noise about it in the next few days going forward as we gear ourselves up for the same. But you heard it here first. So help me spread the word and purpose yourself to be a part and parcel of what you're doing, and God will bless us all. So for now,